America needs more rail trails. And when I say rail trails, I'm also including canal towpaths. The beauty of rail trails and towpaths is that it keeps cyclists and motorists apart, which makes cycling a lot safer. And that's something that I can totally support. Also, rail trails usually don't have any steep hills, and most rail trails are tree-lined. Not all of them. In any case, a tree-lined trail does two things. One, it knocks down the wind. And two, trees provide shade on a hot summer day. So less wind and more shade sounds good to me. The frustrating part for me is there's not enough rail trails, and they don't always go where I want to go. The dream of a great American rail trail is starting to take shape. The goal is to create a continuous bike path all the way across America. Can you imagine? It's not complete yet, but they're off to a good start. I'll probably be dead before they finish it. But actually, some of the trails that are proposed in the Great American Rail Trail are included in this list. America has some awesome rail trails. I've not ridden all of them, not even close. But here are some of my favorite rail trails that I have ridden. Of course, this is all my opinion. What I look for in a trail might be different from what you're looking for. But here are some of the criteria that I use when ranking trails. 1, length of the trail. I like long trails, trails that cross whole states. 2, scenery. I like scenic rail trails that go into remote areas with lots of nature and wildlife. 3, what I call small town charm, or big town charm. I prefer rural areas with low population density. 4, history. I like historic rail trails. 5, accommodations along the trail, like camping, hotels, grocery stores, and restaurants. 6, trail surface. It's not a big deal as long as the trail's rideable. So without further delay, here are my favorite 15 rail trails. Starting at number 15 is the Tunnel Hill Rail Trail in southern Illinois. The Tunnel Hill Rail Trail in southern Illinois is a 47-mile rail trail that goes from Harrisburg at the north end to Karnak at the south end. This Illinois gem goes right through the heart of the Shawnee Forest ecosystem. The highlight of the trail, of course, is the tunnel at Tunnel Hill. The trail crosses several trestles along the way. The longest is the Breeden Trestle, just 2 miles south of the tunnel. I like the short, cozy bridges that give this trail extra charm. It's hard not to stop and check out the fine scenery. About 3 or 4 miles south of Tunnel Hill, the bike path crosses the River to River hiking trail, which happens to be part of the American Discovery Trail. If one was so inclined, there's some primitive camp spots there in the Shawnee Forest. My favorite part is a 9-mile section between Vienna and Tunnel Hill. The trail follows a creek through high-quality eastern deciduous forest. Over thousands of years, this small creek has carved some amazing sandstone features. Harrisburg is the largest town along the trail. Except for a bike shop, there are plenty of services there like hotels, restaurants, and grocery stores. They even have a Walmart. Vienna, crowned the bicycling capital of Illinois, also has a motel, grocery store, and several restaurants. The Mann Brothers Campground is located at the south end of the trail in Karnak. They have picnic tables, drinking water, and a toilet, but no shower. South of Vienna, down to Karnak, there's a less traveled section of trail that goes through high-quality southern Illinois wetland, complete with bald cypress trees and other wetland species. There aren't many riders down here, just plenty of solitude, so you'll probably have the trail to yourself. Just you and the resident reptiles to keep you company. Check out the Cache River Wetland Visitor Center at the end of a 2-mile spur trail west of Karnak. There are restored old train depots in Stone Fort and Vienna. If you look hard, you can find the remnants of old ghost towns on the trail, like Parker City. The trail surface is crushed stone. It's well maintained, but there are some small sections that wash out after heavy storms. There's a trail crew that's quick to fix the trail and clearing down trees. Now, I'm not saying this is one of the top 15 trails in America, but it is my local trail, so it's one of my favorites. It's only about 20 miles from my house. I know it pretty well. I ride here all the time, so I might be a little biased. But on my list of favorite rail trails, this one has to be there. Number 14, the Root River Trail in southeastern Minnesota. The Root River Trail in Minnesota is 42 miles of rolling charm. Located in Minnesota's Driftless area, this trail, along with the connected Harmony-Preston Valley Trail, an 18-mile spur, are part of the Bluffland State Trail system. This area is truly unique compared to the rest of Minnesota's Land of 10,000 Lakes. While the rest of what is now Minnesota was being flattened by a glacier during the last ice age, this area was skipped over and spared. The result is a rugged landscape with rocky limestone bluffs carved by rivers like the Root. The trail is paved and in excellent condition. The incredible landscape is only part of the area's charm. In my opinion, this trail ranks very high on the small town charm scale. The area was settled in the 1850s predominantly by people of Scandinavian origin, and the small towns along the trail still reflect their Norwegian roots. Houston is the eastern terminus. While in Houston, be sure to check out the International Owl Center. They host the Festival of Owls every year on the first weekend of March. Rushford has plenty of services: parking, lodging, camping, and dining. Check out the Railroad Museum in the old historic Rushford Depot. The most scenic part of the trail is probably between Peterson and Lanesboro. The town of Lanesboro was once voted America's prettiest town. Watch out for a very strong gnome presence in Peterson. Looks like the whole town has been overrun by gnomes. Oofta. Save room for pie and ice cream while passing through Wayland and Lanesboro. Between Wayland and Lanesboro, the trail follows the south branch of the Root River upstream. The area's prime reptile habitat, so keep an eye out for snakes sunbathing on the trail. Fountain, known as the sinkhole capital of America, is at the western terminus of the trail. The karst topography, typical of limestone bedrock, is home to over 10,000 sinkholes. The Harmony-Preston Valley Trail, an 18-mile spur trail that splits from the main trail at Trail Junction, follows the south branch to Preston, and then uphill from there all the way to Harmony. The Root River Valley can be enjoyed by canoe, kayak, or floaty. During winter months, cross-country skiing is popular. Scoot the Root. Come for the scenery, stay for the small town charm. Number 13, the Route of the Hiawatha in northern Idaho. The Route of the Hiawatha, or the Hiawatha Trail in northern Idaho, is only about 15 miles long, but it's one of the most scenic trails in America. Even though length of the trail is one of my leading criteria to make the list, and this is a short trail, you can finish it in just a couple hours. The Hiawatha Trail makes this list solely based on awesome scenery here in the Northern Rockies. The trail starts at the Taft Tunnel, near the Montana-Idaho state line, with an elevation of 4140. The trail ends at Pearson with an elevation of 3180. So the trail drops steadily, almost 1,000 feet in elevation from start to finish. Pedaling is easy, as gravity does most of the work. The trail surface is crushed stone and in excellent condition, kind of like going down a long, slow ski run, or like floating down a lazy river. In case you don't feel like riding back to the top of the hill, there's a shuttle service that can cart you and your bike back to the beginning of the trail. The railroad builders had their hands full building a line through this valley. Because of the rugged landscape, it required 10 tunnels and 7 high trestles to make this trail even possible. Some of the tunnels are long and dark, so bring your headlamp. The high trestles provide plenty of treetop views of the forest and surrounding mountains. The trail's run by the Lookout Pass ski area, so it costs $20 to ride the trail. There's no camping along the trail, but there's plenty of wilderness camping not far from the trail. Keep an eye out for wildlife. The resident deer seem almost tame. The Hiawatha Trail is one of the most scenic trails I've been on so far. And even though it's a short trail, it's definitely worth riding, at least once. So put it on your bucket or bike it list somewhere near the top. Number 12, the North Bend Trail in West Virginia. The North Bend Trail is a 72-mile rail trail in West Virginia. It was once part of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. It goes from Wool Summit at the east near Clarksburg to Parkersburg at the west end on the Ohio River. It's a multi-use trail for biking, hiking, and horseback riding. The North Bend Trail is part of the America Discovery Trail that crosses the continent. They've got big future plans for this trail. The goal is to connect the North Bend Trail to the Mon Trail in Morgantown, and then to the Montour Trail in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, which already connects to the Gap in Pittsburgh. This trail blasts through a rugged Allegheny Plateau landscape, requiring 36 bridges and 10 tunnels. The gravel surface can get pretty rough in most places, and the eastern half follows a mostly industrial corridor. The local roads are narrow, windy, and busy with traffic, making road travel for bikes not particularly safe. This trail gives cyclists safe passage and peace of mind riding through this part of West Virginia. There's some really nice places to stop along the trail and take in the scenery. The western half of the trail goes through the scenic North Bend State Park. Free primitive camping is allowed along the trail in the park. A fee campground with showers is also available. We stayed at the lodge in the park. There's a nice restaurant next to the lodge. There's some significant railroad history on the North Bend Trail. The largest train robbery in the history of train robberies happened here at the Central Station in 1915. The North Bend Trail also rates high on the small town charm scale. There are classic West Virginia towns like Cairo, West Union, and Ellenboro. While showing remnants of an old industrial past, they're warm and welcoming to visitors. Check out the old restored railroad depot in Pennsboro, Smithton, and Salem. For some good old West Virginia charm, the North Bend Trail is definitely worth checking out. Number 11, the Paul Bunyan Trail in northern Minnesota. The Paul Bunyan Trail is a 115-mile rail trail that runs through the heart of the North Woods. It goes from Brainerd in the south all the way up to Bemidji in the north. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes, and this trail does not disappoint as it goes past many small lakes. Bring your fishing pole. It's a great place to wet a line. Legend has it, these lakes were formed by Paul Bunyan's giant footprints as he explored the North Woods. Watch out for Minnesota's official state bird, the mosquito. The trail actually starts at Crow Wing State Park, just south of Baxter and Brainerd. There's lots of small towns with ample services along the way, like Nisswa, Pequot Lakes, Pine River, Bacchus, and Hackensack. Hackensack is the unofficial midpoint of the trail. Hackensack is where Paul Bunyan's girlfriend Lucette lives. North of Hackensack, there's a 7-mile section of trail that goes through the Chippewa National Forest. It doesn't look or feel like a rail trail. Instead, the trail is curvy and hilly with some short grades up to 8%. Or skip this section by riding straight onto the Shingabee Connection Trail through the town of Walker, a nice touristy town on Walker Bay. The Heartland Trail runs from Park Rapids to Cass Lake and intersects with the Paul Bunyan Trail. The two trails share a 6-mile section. The trail continues north, past the Paul Bunyan State Forest, through the towns of LaPorte and Guthrie, on the way to Bemidji, a pretty little town on Lake Bemidji. North of Bemidji is the headwaters of the Mississippi River. This is where the great river is born. For such a great river, it sure has humble beginnings. The trail's surface is paved and mostly excellent, but there are some rough spots that have succumbed to the weather over the years. The Paul Bunyan Trail is part of Adventure Cycling's Northern Tier Route, which crosses the northern part of the United States. The North Woods was once part of an expansive forest ecosystem, and there's no better way to experience it than by riding the Paul Bunyan Trail. So if you're anywhere near the Twin Cities, make sure you come check it out. Number 10, the I&M and Hennepin Canal Trails in Illinois. The Illinois and Michigan, or I&M Canal, is a 61.5-mile crushed limestone bike path in northern Illinois that runs from Rockdale at the eastern end to LaSalle at the western end. The Hennepin Canal State Trail is a 105-mile towpath that runs from Bureau Junction on the Illinois River to Kelowna on the Rock River, near the Quad Cities and the Mississippi. Together, the I&M and Hennepin Canals are part of a very historic transportation corridor that helped build the city of Chicago in the 1800s by linking it to the Mississippi River. The trail starts just south and west of Joliet, running alongside the Des Plaines River. At Channahon State Park is the confluence of 4 rivers. The Des Plaines, DuPage, and Kankakee rivers join to form the beginnings of the Illinois River. From there, the trail follows the Illinois River. There's tent camping at Channahon State Park and Gebhard Woods. The trail goes through Buffalo Rock State Park. On the other side of the Illinois River is Starved Rock State Park, home to some unique Native American history and rock formations. There's some cool old towns along the canal like Morris, Marseilles, and Ottawa. The towpath trail ends at LaSalle. There's a 20-mile gap from the I&M to the Hennepin Canal through the LaSalle, Peru area that requires some on-road riding. The Hennepin Canal State Trail continues west of Peru at Bureau Junction. The canal leaves the Illinois River, travels overland with 33 locks to adjust the water level in the canal to match the topography. 5 of the locks have been restored to working condition, but they're not really used. There's tent camping at many of the locks along the canal. There's a really cool aqueduct at Lock 12. An aqueduct is like a bridge filled with water that carries the canal over a creek. Together, the I&M and Hennepin Canal towpaths are over 165 miles long. It provides a nearly car-free bike path all the way across northern Illinois. This trail is at the doorstep of the Chicagoland area, where it links up with a whole network of trails, including the Grand Illinois Loop. Number 9, the Cowboy Trail in Nebraska. The Cowboy Trail is a 200-mile Hall of Fame rail trail that goes from Norfolk in the east all the way out to Valentine in the west. Norfolk is a welcoming Nebraska town with long-term parking at the trail end and a local shuttle service that can take you anywhere along the trail or pick you up. I love this trail because it's a long trail, and there are plans to extend this trail another 120 miles out to Chadron, right through the heart of the Sand Hills, for a total length of about 320 miles. The Sand Hills are amazing. Miles and miles of rolling grassland. Except for a few small scattered towns, the area feels endlessly empty. The quarter-mile-long bridge just east of Valentine crosses the Niobrara River. It's one of the highlights on the trail. There's also an equally impressive high bridge over Long Pine Creek. As you travel west along the trail, the vegetation changes, going from green tall grasses and trees in eastern Nebraska along the Elkhorn River to short grasses and almost no trees in western Nebraska and the Sand Hills. There are many small towns along the trail with services, some with city parks with tent camping. The trail parallels a 2-lane highway most of the way, so traffic noise is never far away. But the highway has a nice wide beefy shoulder. The trail surface is crushed stone. Honestly, I found some sections of the trail to be soft and difficult to ride. There were times when I opted to ride on the beefy paved shoulder for less rolling resistance. The road is just a few feet from the trail, so the scenery wasn't any different. There are a few places where the trail leaves sight of the highway. These sections are definitely worth leaving the paved shoulder for. You get a little more solitude and remoteness. I think to really enjoy this trail, one needs to develop an appreciation for grassland. To the casual observer, grasslands can be boring, but try to picture yourself as a pioneer in the old days, traveling across the Great Plains. What the area lacks in spectacular scenery, it makes up for in Midwest hospitality. I spent a little time at the pool hall in Newport, a biker-friendly community oasis with air conditioning, pool table, and some snacks. This trail rates high in length, remoteness, and small-town charm. If you ever have the itch to ride your bike across Nebraska, this is definitely the way to go. Number 8, the Big Four in Wisconsin. Cutting right through Wisconsin's driftless area are the Big Four. Wisconsin's Big Four Rail Trail forms a 100-mile continuous bike path from Reedsburg in the south all the way to Parrott State Park in Trompereau County on the Mississippi River. The Wisconsin driftless area is an amazing place with a unique geologic history. The area was and is studied extensively. The so-called Big Four includes the 400 Trail, that's 22 miles, the Elroy Sparta Trail, 32 miles, the La Crosse River Trail, another 22, and the Great River Trail, 25 miles. If you add it all up, it's about 100 miles. A trail pass is required on all Wisconsin rail trails, but the nominal fee helps support and maintain the trails. And I really don't mind paying because Wisconsin has one of the best rail trail systems in the country. There are trails all over the state. I usually buy the season pass. It's good for all Wisconsin state trails. Wisconsin is one of my favorite places to bike ride. It's a pleasant mixture of forest and farmland, broken up by rivers, lakes, and wetland. It's a great place to see migratory birds from all over the country, especially sandhill cranes. The relative flat trail is a great way to experience the narrow valleys and steep wooded bluffs that make up the driftless area. The 400 trail starts at Reedsburg at the south end and follows the Baraboo River for 22 miles all the way to the town of Elroy. When it comes to rail trails, the Elroy Sparta is the granddaddy of them all. It's 32 miles from Elroy to Sparta with 3 incredible tunnels in between, the longest of which is 3/4 of a mile with just enough curve that you can't see the other end when you enter. It's a good idea to have a flashlight. The La Crosse River Trail starts in Sparta and follows the La Crosse River all the way to La Crosse, Wisconsin on the Mississippi River. The trail goes through Rockland Prairie State Natural Area. The Great River Trail picks up in La Crosse and follows the Great River north, but it ends at the Great River Road. Together, these 4 trails allow you to pedal through one of the most scenic areas of Wisconsin without the hassle of cars or steep hills. And the people of Wisconsin will make you feel right at home. So put this one on the list. Number 7, the Trail of the Coeur d'Alenes in northern Idaho. The Trail of the Coeur d'Alenes is a 73-mile Hall of Fame rail trail in northern Idaho, from Mullen at the east end to Plummer at the west end. This is a paved trail in excellent condition all the way. The trail goes almost all the way across the northern panhandle of Idaho. This trail is also part of the Great American Rail Trail, where it links up in Washington State. The trail goes through the Silver Valley, a mining district from Mullen to Kellogg. A fortune in precious metal was hauled out of these mountains in the early 1900s. Beware of the massive piles of mine tailings everywhere. The soil isn't really safe. Be sure to check out the town of Wallace, a picturesque mining town with a colorful past, nestled right here in the northern Rockies. While exploring the Coeur d'Alene Trail, I stayed in Kellogg, where there's plenty of accommodations. There's also services in Wallace. West of Kellogg, the trail follows the scenic Coeur d'Alene River through the Lane Marsh, a wetland area with an abundance of wildlife, including moose, beaver, osprey, and bald eagles. The trail goes through Harrison, a quaint little town on the shore of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Lake Coeur d'Alene is a beautiful natural lake surrounded by mountains. One of the highlights of the trail is the Chat-Calais Trestle. This long bridge takes you across Lake Coeur d'Alene to Hayburn State Park, the only campsite along the trail. From the lake, the trail gradually gains in elevation, passing through rolling farmland and dry forest on its way to Plummer. Plummer is a small town located on the Coeur d'Alene Indian Reservation. Make sure to stop at the park with the cool Native American memorial honoring Native American veterans. The Coeur d'Alene Trail is one of the most scenic trails in America. There's a high degree of remoteness and wildness, as well as the potential for wildlife sightings. It's not a super long trail, but there's other wilderness trails and gravel roads nearby that are suitable for mountain biking. So put the Coeur d'Alene Trail on your list. It's definitely worth it. At number 6, the Greenbrier River Trail in West Virginia. The Greenbrier River Trail is a 78-mile Hall of Fame rail trail located in West Virginia. It follows the scenic Greenbrier River downstream from Cass at the north end to Caldwell at the south end. The Greenbrier is the longest free-flowing river in the eastern U.S. The Greenbrier is a wild river and would also make for an excellent float trip. Most of the trail is located within the Monongahela National Forest. The trail surface is crushed stone, It's well maintained and in very good condition. While in the town of Cass at the north end, be sure to check out the Cass Railroad State Park. The company store and company houses are restored there. An old-time steam train carries passengers just for fun, reenacting the old steam engine days. There are 2 tunnels and dozens of cool bridges along the trail. Just south of Seneca State Forest, the trail goes through the 511-foot-long Sharps Tunnel, built to shortcut a mile-long bend in the river. The 400-foot-long Droop Mountain Tunnel, south of Watauga State Park, was built to shortcut another 2.5-mile bend in the river. The town of Marlinton has plenty of services like B&Bs, restaurants, and grocery stores. There's an old train depot in Marlinton, complete with an old wood water tank. In my opinion, this is one of the most scenic bike trails in the eastern U.S. There are so many excellent camping spots along the trail. This would make an awesome, short, low-intensity bikepacking trip. What I love about this trail is that there are way too many cool spots to stop at along the river. Pick out your favorite swimming or fishing hole, or just dip your toes in. There's lots of camping, picnicking, and stopping points all along the trail. There's lots of cool history and plenty of small-town charm. Put this one on the list. Come in the fall, when the trees are changing color and the air is crisp. Or come in the spring, when new life is coming back to the forest. The Greenbrier River Trail ranks high on all important points. I just wish it were a little longer. At number 5, the George S. Mickelson Trail in South Dakota. The Mickelson Trail in South Dakota is a 109-mile Hall of Fame rail trail that goes right through the heart of the Black Hills, from Deadwood to Edgemont. The Black Hills of South Dakota is a very special place, and the Mickelson Trail is a great way to experience it. This very scenic trail is truly special. At the north end of the trail is Deadwood, a charming historic town with a colorful past. This is where Wild Bill Hickok was gunned down during a poker game. The Deadwood Lead area was once a rich mining district where a fortune in precious metals was pulled from the ground. There are still some active gold mines in the area today. The trail goes through the Black Hills National Forest, a dry western forest mixed with grassland and some amazing rock formations. The Black Hills area is a geologist's playground. There are 4 scenic tunnels and over 100 trestles on the trail. I think the most scenic section of trail is between Mystic and Custer. Stop at the Moonshine Gulch Saloon in Rochford for a step back in time. Custer, named after famous U.S. General George Armstrong Custer, is a nice western town with plenty of modern services. While in Custer, check out Custer State Park and the incredible geology of the area. You're not far from the 4 presidents carved on Mount Rushmore, and the newer Crazy Horse Monument, still a work in progress. South of Custer, the trail drops in elevation on the way to Pringle. There's not much in Pringle except a parking area and the largest mountain of bicycles I've ever seen. The portion of trail south of Custer sees fewer visitors than the northern portion. There are fewer services and less spectacular scenery, but if you skip the southern portion, you'll miss one of the highlights of the trail, Sheep's Canyon. Sheep's Canyon is way cool and well worth the effort. The town of Edgemont is located at the south terminus of the trail. There's so much to see and do in the Black Hills. Make sure riding the Mickelson is at the top of the list. In my opinion, this is one of the finest rail trails in America. The scenery is varied and spectacular. I just wish it was longer. I like long trails, and these last 4 on the list are some of the longer trails that I've ridden. Number 4, the Erie Canalway Trail in New York. The Erie Canalway Trail is a towpath that follows the Erie Canal across New York State for 360 miles, from Buffalo to the capital in Albany, connecting the Hudson River to the Great Lakes. This bike path ranks high in history and small-town charm, especially the western portion. No trip to the Buffalo area would be complete without a visit to Niagara Falls. Heading east from Buffalo is the town of Lockport, complete with historic locks and barges. There are many other small charming canal towns on the way to Rochester that have names that end in port, like Gasport, Middleport, Brockport, Spencerport. Construction on the Erie Canal began in 1817. A crew of about 9,000 workers, digging mostly by hand with picks and shovels, dug a trench 4 feet deep, 40 feet wide, and 360 miles long, which included locks to adjust for changes in elevation. The canal opened in 1925. The canal was a smashing success, and business boomed with more traffic and larger barges. The canal went through 2 major upgrades, the latest in the 1960s. Some portions of the old canal were widened and deepened, but other parts were abandoned and rerouted. Some of the bypass sections still exist as historic reminders of the old canal, and a good part of the trail follows the original canal. Western New York is pretty laid back, especially along the canal. From Rochester to Syracuse, just north of the Finger Lakes, there are more ports, like Port Gibson, Port Byron, and Weedsport. In the 1800s, Syracuse was the birthplace of the modern women's rights movement. The route follows parts of the old original canal from Port Byron to Camillus, including a restored aqueduct near 9 Mile Creek. East of Syracuse, the route follows more of the old original canal from DeWitt to Rome, where there are lots of quaint stopping places. East of Rome, the route follows the Mohawk River, going through some old industrial towns like Utica, Mohawk, Little Falls, Amsterdam, and Schenectady on the way to the Hudson River and the state capital in Albany. The bike route is about 85% completed trail, with about 15% on roads shared with cars. It's part of a longer Empire State Trail system that goes up the Hudson River to Lake Champlain. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not from New York, and I wasn't ready for some of what I'd call big city attitude that I saw. No details, just saying, that's all. Must be a New York thing. The Erie Canal is an epic trail with a very rich history. The small towns along the way are quaint and picturesque. For a quiet ride across the Empire State, take the Erie Canal. And you'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal, if you've ever navigated on the Erie Canal. At number 3, the Ohio to Erie Trail, or the OTET in Ohio. Trail planners in Ohio had the right idea when they put together the OTET, or the Ohio to Erie Trail. The OTET is a 326-mile bike trail that links the Ohio River in Cincinnati to Lake Erie in Cleveland. It's not one trail, but a series of rail trails and canal towpaths that, when connected together, bisect the entire state of Ohio. The southern leg starts on the Ohio River in Cincinnati, follows the very scenic Little Miami River Trail north to Xenia. There's plenty of small-town charm in the rural counties of Ohio, but the route also goes through 3 big cities, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and the capital, Columbus. So if you're attracted to big city life, there's plenty of that here too. The trail's surface, just like the terrain and scenery, changes along the route. Much of it's paved, but there's also sections of crushed stone, so be ready for almost anything. From Xenia, the OTET follows the Prairie Grass Trail north and east through Cedarville, South Charleston, and into London. The Central Ohio leg switches trails in London and follows the Camp Chase Trail into Columbus. There's lots of big city charm to go around in Columbus, with plenty to see and do. Columbus is a big city with a network of bike paths, including the Alum Creek Trail that leads to Westerville and Sunbury. The Sandal Legacy Trail and the Heart of Ohio Trail goes through Mount Vernon. The Heart of the Ohio leg starts in Mount Vernon and follows the Cocasin Gap Trail. Here the route goes through Ohio Amish country. It follows the Mohican Valley Trail and crosses the Mohican River at the Bridge of Dreams. The Bridge of Dreams is a very quaint, covered bridge. in a beautiful setting in rural Ohio. The Holmes County Trail leads to Glenmont. There are some short off-trail sections between Glenmont and Mazatlan. Unfortunately, the route is not all bike trail. There are some short sections on paved roads. Most of the road riding is on quiet rural roads, but some is on urban streets, so be prepared for that. Currently, it's about 90% complete with plans for a 100% car-free bike path in the future. The northern leg of the OTET from Mazatlan goes north through Akron. I've heard rumors that the trail is now complete through Akron. From Akron, the trail continues north through Peninsula and along the Cuyahoga River. It follows the Ohio and Erie Canal towpath into the Cuyahoga River National Park. As the trail goes north of the park, it becomes more urban and eventually goes into the streets of Cleveland on the way to the shore of Lake Erie at Edgewater Park. I wish there were more bike routes like this one. It's long and it cuts right through a cross-section of America. If you want to see America, ride this trail. At number 2, the Katy Trail in Missouri. The Katy Trail in Missouri, with a length of 240 miles, is the longest single rail trail in America. This Hall of Fame rail trail runs from St. Charles in the east all the way to Clinton in the west. The Katy Trail follows the Missouri River, Big Mo, for part of the way. The Katy Trail is part of the American Discovery Trail. This is Lewis and Clark country. The Lewis and Clark expedition set out to explore the newly purchased Louisiana Territory. They followed the Missouri River from where it empties into the Mississippi River near modern-day St. Louis, upstream to its headwaters in Montana. They crossed the Continental Divide and followed the Columbia River to where it empties into the Pacific Ocean at modern-day Astoria, Oregon. This section of the Missouri River is known as the Missouri Rhineland because the area is reminiscent of Germany's Rhine River Valley, complete with picturesque German villages like Hermann. The area is known for its many wineries and B&Bs in towns like Defiance and Augusta. I like to stop and grab a bite to eat trailside at the Dutso Deli. There's a spur trail that goes into the capital of Jefferson City, complete with a bridge and a bike ladder to help you get across the Missouri River. Between Jeff City and Rochport, there are some stunning river bluffs with excellent vistas and access points. Keep an eye out for eagles along the river. The Missouri is a working river, so keep an eye out for barges. Before there were interstate highways, the Missouri River was an interstate highway, used to transport people and freight all the way to Montana for at least 2 centuries. Along the river, the trail stays nice and level, but the trail leaves the river at Boonville and heads upland. Missouri's not a flat state, but the railroad designers built a line with grades no greater than 2 or 3%. That's the beauty of rail trails. No steep hills, only long, slow, gradual ones. Grades that even a train can handle. This part of the trail goes through forests, fields, and farmland, even passing through the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia. The Rock Island Trail intersects with the Katy Trail at Windsor, and it heads to Lee's Summit in the suburbs of Kansas City, Missouri. The trail ends at the western terminus in Clinton. The Katy Trail is a long, scenic bike trail that goes almost across the whole state of Missouri. It follows a classic river and has plenty of small-town charm. It also takes you close to some big cities, like Jeff City, Columbia, and Kansas City. The trail surface is crushed stone and in very good condition. There's plenty of camping and other accommodations. What's not to love about this trail? It's one of my favorites. All right, we're at the top of the list. Are you ready? Here we go. Number 1, the C&O and Gap Trail in Maryland and Pennsylvania. Together, the C&O and Gap Trails cover a distance of about 335 miles from our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., all the way to Pittsburgh, PA, and in my opinion, is the best bike path in America, not only because of its length, but also because of its scenery, history, remoteness, and small-town charm. It hits high on all criteria. The Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Towpath, or C&O, starts at milepost 0, behind the boat marina in Washington, D.C., and follows the Potomac River west or upstream for 185 miles to Cumberland, Maryland. The towpath is level, but there are slight elevation changes at the many locks along the way. Back in the day, a lockmaster lived in the lockhouse, collected tolls, and operated the locks to keep raw materials and goods flowing up and down the Potomac Valley. The original plan in the 1830s was to continue building the canal over the Eastern Divide into the Ohio River Valley. But by the time canal construction reached Cumberland in the 1850s, the railroad was already there, making it unnecessary and unprofitable to extend the canal any further. So the C&O Canal towpath ends at Cumberland, Maryland. But that's where the Gap Trail or the Great Allegheny Passage begins. The Gap Rail Trail continues west for another 150 miles from Cumberland to Pittsburgh, PA. From Cumberland, the Gap Trail goes uphill for about 20 miles into the Allegheny Mountains, across the Mason-Dixon line and over the Eastern Continental Divide into Pennsylvania. Once over the Eastern Divide, it's a gradual downhill all the way to Pittsburgh. The trail roughly follows the Monongahela, the Youghahaney, and the Castleman Rivers and the origin of the Ohio River. The section of trail near Myersdale and Ohiopyle is especially scenic. Concerning trail surface conditions, I think the Gap Trail is smoother and better maintained than the C&O. The C&O feels rougher and more primitive. On a rainy day, there are parts of the C&O that can turn into a quagmire pretty quick. At 335 miles, this is a multi-day trail. It could probably be comfortably completed in 4 or 5 days. There are some excellent trailside campsites along the way, complete with picnic table, a cistern containing drinkable water, and a pit toilet. There's plenty of space for primitive camping and access to the river. Build a campfire, cook supper, and try to rinse off the day's sweat and trail grit. Maybe camping's not your thing and you're looking for some more civilized accommodations. There's plenty of towns along the way with motels and B&Bs. If you're into miles and miles of traffic-free riding with awesome scenery and primitive camping, the Gap and C&O Trail has it all. Given its length, scenery, history, remoteness, and wilderness feel, I give the Gap and C&O a #1 ranking as the best bike path in America. What are you waiting for? This trail's a must. Well, those are my favorite 15. Did your favorite rail trail make the list? If not, it's probably because I haven't been there yet. Here's a list of my favorite rail trails that I haven't been to yet. The Flint Hills Trail in Kansas, 118 miles. The Prairie Heart Trail in Kansas, 51.3 miles. The Gandy Dancer Trail in Wisconsin, 47 miles. The Olympic Discovery Trail in Washington, 135 miles. The Palouse Cascade State Park Trail in Washington, 287 miles. The Cardinal Greenway Trail in Indiana, 61.2 miles. The Wabash Trace Nature Trail in Iowa, 62.6 miles. The Cedar Valley Nature Trail in Iowa, 52 miles. The Chief Ladiga and Silver Comet Trails in Georgia, 94.5 miles. The New River Trail in Virginia, 57 miles. The Virginia Creeper Trail in Virginia, 32.7 miles. The Tanglefoot Trail in Mississippi, 43.6 miles. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. So if there's a really cool rail trail that I've overlooked, let me know. Just put it in the comments section below. Thanks a lot. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you down the trail. Now go ride your bike.